It is good! The Utah Utes sink USC once more! And another classic!
Honestly, I'm lost for words. The amount of upsets, close games, letdowns, and dominations all happening in the same week was absolutely crazy. I can't wait to get into it with all you guys and show you guys my top 25. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright guys, so here's my top 25. This week we really got a lot of teams in the 2-loss comp sitting at the back end of the top 25. And then we have a newcomer. Or should I say newcomers jumping into the top 20. We're going to get into all of that in a second. But we have to start off with our number one team in the country, the Michigan Wolverines. First off, I do want to mention what's going on with Michigan right now and give my thoughts on it. If you guys have heard, been on Twitter, or just been anywhere in sports media in the past few days, you know that Michigan is in some deep water right now with stealing signs illegally. There is a legal way to steal signs, but they had a guy that was like a recruiter going to a bunch of Big Ten games over the past 3 years and just buying tickets, going to the games, filming those games from his phone, and then taking it back to give to Harbaugh and his staff, and they were using that to beat teams or get the one up on them, if you should say. And all that is alleged. It's not 100% true. The NCAA is still going through it. The Big Ten is still going through it. But from my point of view, I do think they're going to be found guilty. I do think something's going to happen. I don't know what, but something will happen to them from this. And if they are found 100% guilty, I do think that their wins need to be vacated since they started it all the way up to the season that they ended it. So this year, it would stop. Jim Harbaugh will probably get fired from it. And Michigan might get some reduced scholarships. I don't know if they'll get a bowl ban. We'll just have to wait and see. But all of that aside, Michigan, they went up against Michigan State and they absolutely dominated them. 49-0. They put them to shame. Regardless if Michigan is cheating or not, they are a really good team and no one could take that away from them. Even if they were stealing signs or not, they would still be undefeated this year. They still probably won basically every game last year. This is just a really solid football team. Then moving on to number 2, we have the Ohio State Buckeyes. They took on Penn State and they beat Penn State 20-12, but honestly, it was 20-6. They had a late touchdown in garbage time. And I just want to say something. I'm really impressed with Ohio State's defense this year, especially in recent years. They've been awful. So seeing them play good this year against decent to good teams is a step in the right direction. Not letting up those huge plays, which those huge plays are the reasons that they lost to Michigan and to Georgia past 2 seasons. So I'm really intrigued to see that game at the end of the year. Kyle McCord, there's a problem with him though. He looks scared. He looked scared the entire game, but luckily Ohio State has Marvin Harrison Jr., probably one of the best players in college football, definitely the best wide receiver to lead them. And he had 162 yards and a touchdown. Should have had more if Kyle McCord was able to make the throws. Ohio State probably would have scored 2 more touchdowns and this game would have gotten way out of hand. This team just needs to keep getting better and better at the quarterback position. If they do and the offensive line gets better, they're going to be really dangerous. I do expect them to be number 1 in the nation from the College Football Playoff Committee if they do beat Wisconsin over Michigan. And the only reason I say that is because their strength of record, their schedule, beating Notre Dame at home and then beating Penn State, both top 10 wins at the time, both top 15 wins right now. It's the best resume in the nation, and they're only getting better. And I also want to make a shout out to Ohio State secondary. They shut down the entire wide receiver core of Penn State, and JT Tuimoloau, he got after it again after last year destroying them. He did it again in the fourth quarter. He's a beast. I'm excited for this team. And then moving on from Ohio State, I have Georgia. They did not play this week. This was their bye week, and I'm sure they're getting ready to go to Gainesville and face Florida for that yearly rivalry. And then right after them, I have Florida State. Florida State actually played Duke. They were really close to Duke all the way until the fourth quarter. Duke's starting quarterback Riley Leonard got hurt again. He was hurt the last couple games. He got re-injured. They brought in their backup. He was no good. And Florida State took off and won this game 38-20. It's really sad to see some of these teams' best players get hurt like that and completely ruin these really good games, because this game would have went down to the wire if Riley Leonard didn't get hurt, in my opinion. Moving on to the 5th ranked team, I have the Washington Huskies. They survived at home against the worst team in the Pac-12, Arizona State. Arizona State is 1-5 and they have the worst offense in the entire country. Washington beat them 15-7, and they were losing this entire game all the way up until the end, until Arizona State's quarterback threw a pick six, which ultimately just ended the game right there. Really heartbreaking loss for them. They played an incredible game on defense. They knew exactly what Washington wanted to do. They stopped it the entire game. Michael Penix Jr. looked terrible. He had 3 picks. He was making awful decisions, awful throws, and even the good throws, Arizona State was jumping these routes and batting the ball down. I am really impressed with how Arizona State came out and played them. And every team that they're going to play for the rest of the year, Washington, I mean, those teams with good defenses are going to give them the exact same thing that Arizona State did. And Washington is probably going to lose a game or two. And that's my honest opinion. That's what I got off of that. And next at number 6, we have the Oklahoma Sooners, and they beat UCF 31-29. Again, another game that came down all the way to the end. UCF completed a 4th down pass play in the end zone to make it 29-31. They failed the 2-point conversion and ultimately lost this game. Just so many close games and nail biters this week. It's so crazy that every single week just gets better and better and better, and I say it every single video. You guys can go back and watch. I know a lot of people out there think Oklahoma should be in the top 5, maybe even the top 3 after they beat Texas, but if you look at that Texas game, Texas lost that game more than Oklahoma won that game with the turnovers and how their defense played. Like at the end, they could have won that game without all those mistakes, and Oklahoma, they're showing that they're not fully there yet. But they can be by the end of the year. Dylan Gabriel is a really good quarterback. They have a good running back. They have a good wide receiver core. And they have a defense that's getting better week in and week out. So when and if the rematch comes with Texas, I think Oklahoma's going to be better. Now, if Quinn Ewers plays in that game, I think it's going to be a different outcome. I do think Texas wins, but that all depends on his health. We're going to get to Texas in a second, but first we got to talk about Oregon. Oregon, I have them at my 7th spot. They did not struggle in their game at all against Washington State. They won that game 38-24. Bo Nix, he was 18 for 25, 2 touchdowns, 300 passing yards. Now the thing to look at in this game, Cameron Ward, Washington State's quarterback, he threw for over 400 yards on them. This team will allow you to pass down their throat the entire game. So for good passing teams, they can affect Oregon very well. But I decided to reward them and put them in front of Texas because Texas almost lost to Houston. Houston is not a good team this year. They almost lost. Quinn Ewers did go down, so Malik Murphy came in to relieve him. But Texas should have lost this game. A missed call/spot is what ruined them, because if you guys watched that game, they got the spot completely wrong. It was a 3rd or 4th down, I don't fully remember, but very clearly the Houston player got across the line to gain, but they marked him a half yard behind it, which ultimately cost them that game at the end. It's a really sad thing in any sport where the complete lunacy of a referee can change the outcomes of these games and the whole outcome of their season. And the craziest part about it, it wasn't reviewed at all. I feel bad for Houston, I really do. And also in that Washington game that I was talking about earlier, there was a complete pass interference that was missed on Washington. Like the Washington DB clearly interfered with the pass and they didn't call that either. That could have also won Arizona State that game. So terrible calls the whole way around. Even in the Ohio State game, there were a lot of calls that went Ohio State's way that could have also changed the outcome of that game. But anyway, that's my rant. I hope Quinn Ewers is okay and he gets back, because Texas needs him if they're going to compete and eventually get to the playoff. And coming in after them, I have the Alabama Crimson Tide sitting at 9. They beat Tennessee 34-20. And what a tale of two halves this game was. Tennessee was winning 20-7 at halftime, just putting it to Alabama. And Alabama comes out, scores 2 touchdowns in like 2 minutes. Absolutely insane, and they didn't look back. Alabama scored 27 straight points and Tennessee couldn't move the ball, saved their life. They gave all the momentum to Alabama. They just let them win this game. Complete breakdown by Josh Heupel. I know there were a bunch of bad calls in that game too that went Alabama's way. Josh Heupel was talking about, or refused to talk about it, but clearly Tennessee didn't want to win that game enough, because they would have gotten at least closer. They would have done something to counteract what Alabama was doing. And to finish out the top 10, we have Penn State. They lost to Ohio State. It was only by 8 points, even though it was kind of by 14. But this is still a really good team, and these were growing pains for Drew Aller. He's a really good quarterback. He was just really scared in this game, and Ohio State's defense was scary and he did not know what to do at all. I expect him to improve, especially moving forward, looking to that Michigan game in a couple weeks. Also, from now on, I don't think James Franklin can beat Ohio State. Just saying, until he actually does, I don't believe in him at all. And moving on to number 11, I have Oregon State. They didn't play this week, they had a bye. And right after them, we have the Utah Utes sitting at number 12. And the only reason I have them at 12 and not 11 is because Oregon State beat them head to head, yada yada yada. Utah yet again beat USC, and this time it was 34-32. They went off the walk-off field goal. You guys saw it at the beginning of the video. I am so impressed with this Utah team. The toughness, the game planning, and the will of their players to win is higher than like any other team in the nation, and it shows every single week. Those kids play super hard 24/7 for Whittingham, and they completely took advantage of this terrible USC defense and an overrated, yes, I'm saying overrated, Caleb Williams. He had a decent game, but everyone thinks this man is the second coming of Jesus. He's not. He's not the best thing since sliced bread. Everyone's going to want him number 1 overall, but I'm just telling you right now, he's going to be a bust. He's a prima donna and really only cares about his product and not the whole team. Book it right now. Then moving on, we have Notre Dame sitting at the 13th spot. They didn't play this week. They had a bye. They'll be playing Pittsburgh this weekend. And then after them, we have Ole Miss. They only beat Auburn 28-21. Now, granted, Auburn's at home. It's hard to play at Auburn. But this team has no offense. And when a team doesn't have offense, if you are a really good team or just a good team, they shouldn't be putting up 21 points, and you shouldn't only be putting up 28. And I'm talking to you too, Georgia Bulldogs. You only beat this team by 7 too, which is just embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. I haven't been high on Ole Miss all year. I haven't been high on them since Lane Kiffin got hired because he can never win the big game. He still hasn't. He lost the big game against Alabama this year, and he's going to lose again to Georgia. They play mediocre defense and they have a decent offense. That's what they are. Honestly, they are kind of like, honestly, they should be ranked in the 20s because this team just really isn't that good to me. That's why I put them behind Notre Dame, but it's hard because I cannot put them behind UNC. UNC, rounding out my top 15, they dropped an absolute egg to Virginia, lost 31-27 at home, with a Heisman caliber quarterback and a really good coming out receiver in Tez Walker. And you want to know what's even crazier other than UNC's terrible defense? They won the turnover battle and still lost at home. That is unacceptable. I wanted to drop them more, but I could not drop them past another 2-loss team, LSU, that also has no defense. But speaking of LSU, they went and destroyed Army, which they should. It was like 62-0. Army has no offense at all, no defense at all. LSU won the game easily. Don't even have to talk about that much. And after them, we had Air Force. Air Force played Navy. I think they won 17-6. Air Force has a really good defense, and being the triple option, it's hard to defend, especially when they're good at it. And Air Force is good at it. I feel like this team could go 12-0, and they're going to represent the group of 5 and get into a near 6 bowl. And then coming in number 18, I have the Missouri Tigers. They beat South Carolina at 34-12. And like, I'm going to look at you again, Georgia fans. This is how you beat South Carolina at home. That's all I'm saying. They were up 24-3 at halftime. South Carolina is supposed to be a good offensive team, and again, a terrible defensive team. I do not understand what is with these SEC teams with having decent offenses and terrible defenses. This year's SEC is really looking like the old Big 12, and it's really funny. Missouri ran up and down the field on them, and they are a pass-first team with a really good wide receiver. It's just inexcusable, but congrats to Missouri. They're a good team. And then right behind them, we have James Madison at the 19th spot. They played on Thursday and they beat Marshall 20-9. And all I really have to say about this game is Jordan McLeod. He is a really good quarterback, and that run defense for James Madison is just really good. James Madison is a well-rounded team. They've been in the FBS for 3 years, and they've been ranked 2 of the 3 years. Absolutely crazy to me that this program is brand new and they're able to do this. They're 7-0. Congrats, James Madison. And right after James Madison, we have another team that was on a bye, Louisville. They're at the 20th spot, and they're going to be playing Duke next week. Hopefully Riley Leonard plays. That's going to be an amazing game. I can't wait for that one. And jumping into 21, I have the Tulane Green Wave. They beat North Texas 35-28. really, they've been underperforming the last couple weeks. I don't know what's wrong with Tulane. They have a great offense with Pratt. Pratt's a really good quarterback, but for some reason, something is not clicking with that team. And unfortunately, I do see them dropping another game and dropping out of the top 25 sooner rather than later. And right after them, I have USC. We talked about USC, lost at home. This is 2 games in a row. They lost to Notre Dame and then Utah, mainly because of that defense. Their defense is not that good. Even though it played decent against Notre Dame's offense isn't that good, but Notre Dame's defense is absolutely crazy. It's the best defense that Caleb Williams has played, and he underperforms so much. He is so overrated. He plays crappy competition 90% of the time, especially the defenses he plays. And the next few weeks, he's going to be playing good defenses, and I could see similar things happening. They're going to drop another game. And honestly, I cannot wait to move them outside of the top 25 because I'm tired of the Lincoln Riley hype. All he knows is offense. There's no defense, and all the kids that are going to go to USC to play defense, stay away. That man does not know what he's doing when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. After them, we have Tennessee. They lost to Alabama. I don't know what's next for Tennessee. They play Kentucky. And I think they're going to win that game because Kentucky really isn't good at all. They have a good run game, and that's about it. I'm taking Tennessee in that game, even though they're the away team again. And after them at 24, I have the Duke Blue Devils. Again, they're playing Louisville. They had that heartbreaking loss to Florida State where they were in the game. Hopefully Riley Leonard plays. And rounding out my top 25, I have UCLA. They put the smack down on Stanford 42-7. Colorado, take notes, don't lose to Stanford. They play an absolutely great game. They have a great defense. Even though they let up 270 yards passing, they really constricted the running game. This front seven for UCLA is really good. And once they keep progressing in this season on offense and getting a little bit better on offense, they have a pretty new offense in general. The team's going to get better. They're a tough out for anybody in college football right now. And as usual, as a little add-on on the end, I want to tell you guys the teams I have on the outside. Florida is looking like a top 30 team for me. Graham Mertz is playing pretty well. I would consider them like right on the cusp of the top 25. And then I want to give a shout out to Liberty. Liberty is undefeated right now, and they're getting no love, even though they haven't been blowing everyone out. That's still being undefeated right now is really good for any team. And then for the last team I want to give a shout out to is Kansas State. Kansas State is playing some really good football. They beat the living crap out of TCU recently, and I think they're just playing really good football. They probably deserve to be ranked. Maybe next week. We'll have to see what happens. And with that being said, that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and comment down below. I'll be making my video this Saturday. I'm sorry I wasn't able to upload on the previous Saturday. I was on vacation, but we're back to the regular schedule upload Saturday night and the Sunday morning. Thank you for supporting the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.